right, so we'll get started. And what did you guys say? Ready? Well, obviously we'll do boba afterward.
Yeah, we'll do boba after.
All right.
When it's time for John's bedtime.
Yeah, just kick me off whenever. I mean, you know.
Yeah, because he's got to quick get to bed so he can wake up and do nothing but shoot more videos.
I was telling Chris, hey Shane, I was telling Chris, I look back from October, it was like October 16th to yesterday, or including today, because I did a video today. I missed 4 days. A video every single day except for 4 days. That's overkill. No one wants to see me. No one wants to see me that much. All right, shut up, John. Just shut up.
At least you don't number your episodes. We'd know you'd be up to more than 56, right?
Oh, geez.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 5 Idiots Talking Toys. Tonight is part 2 of our bootleg episode with the action figure grader John Rula joining us. We are going to jump in just a moment. Just a reminder to please subscribe to this channel, hit the bell icon to be notified of our new videos that come out throughout the week, in addition to our weekly podcast episode that comes out Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, but you can see the video form of the podcast here on YouTube if that's where you're watching us, and also all the other content that's not on the podcast apps. So we're going to jump in right now, midway into our bootleg coverage episode part 2 with John Rula, the action figure grader. Let's see what the boys are talking about. So I have a question for you, John. I know that the Uze figures are known as bootlegs. But just to go on, based on your simple, quick description to start with, the blue stars obviously doesn't look like a Hoth Trooper. It's blue. But the gunner that you have there, it's very close to a Kenner gunner or a Palitoy gunner, whatever. Where's the line drawn that that's not a knockoff, rather it's a bootleg? Is it just kind of applied to the whole line because overall it's a bootleg line?
Yeah, it's a great question, Shane. I thought about that myself, and I don't know if I've even ever asked the guys about that. But SB Products, they operated in Turkey, where licensed Kenner stuff wasn't allowed, and they had their own card backs, very unique card backs. You probably remember seeing this one with the calculator, right, on the card back, and or like C-3POs and like popcorn and just random stuff like that. And it's odd how some of them, like the gunner or Chewbacca. I have a Chewbacca over there that didn't pull down. I mean, it's if you didn't know any better, you would think it's the licensed figure. Like I guarantee you, if my wife saw that, she was like, "Yeah, it looks like a licensed figure." So it's a great question. I think it's just a lot of it comes down to that. It's just whether the licensed product was accessible to either because of politics or poverty, the majority of the population. And I mean, like I said, Lily Letty was made in Mexico and made for the Mexican market, but what percentage of the population back then could really afford those? Probably not many, really. And so that's why the bootleg community was so active there. In Turkey, it was just about, they had the money. Obviously, Turkey was a pretty, advanced civilization or country back then, but they just didn't have access to it because of politics. So.
Yeah, and I know that they're known for the funny names too on the packages, right? Like what's Chewbacca's name? Like Sausage Man or something like that?
I don't remember. I mean, I wish I don't know hardly anything about Uzes, to be honest with you, because they're so expensive. I just never even bothered. I picked up a couple of them that I knew were legitimate, and then I was like, I can't collect this line. It's too expensive. The funny thing is like, this overstock, which is very tough to find. Some of the longtime collectors were like, how did you find that? I went to Etsy.com and some guy had like a Star Wars shop and he had this listed for like $500. And I was like, are you kidding me? This is an overstock Uze. And I verified it was correct and everything. And it was already graded. It had a broken case, so I sent it back in to get it recased. But I paid $500 for it. I mean, the last one that was like this on like Hakes sold for, I mean, it was like $2,500 or $3,000. It was crazy, but it was on Etsy of all places. I was like, what is going on? Where you can find like Turkish Uze bootlegs on a craft website. I mean, it was so bizarre to find it there. So
what are the differences between? What are the identifiable differences between like an Uze Imperial gunner and a Kenner Imperial gunner?
Well,
how can you distinguish between the two?
it's not nearly as exact as you think. Like these don't have like any kind of COO marks or anything like that. They're all produced, like the actual pieces are produced by the Uze, the SB Products factory. But if you held like a licensed one next to it, like I didn't bring it down, but if you held like my licensed Chewbacca next to the Uze Chewbacca, it's very clear that it's not a licensed figure. It's a little bit, just slightly more rudimentary, but to the untrained eye, it could look like a licensed figure. But you and I, as long-term collectors, we would be able to spot the difference pretty quick. So it's just.
I was curious where like most of the countries got the figures that they were gonna make. Like for instance, Pruneface. He's the best character, but like
here we go.
He's not a popular like U.S. Kenner character. But why is he a really popular bootleg though? Like that makes no sense to me.
A lot of it came down to how easily they could match the molds. Like, so for example, the Polish bootlegs, not all of them, but most of the generations of Polish bootlegs, they use two different kinds of arms. They use like the ones that were on the Biker Scouts or the ones that were on the TIE Fighter pilots. And then they just reuse those arms for every single character. And so for those characters where it would be really easy to just swap those arms out and maybe just do a new head, that's often what they did. But that's just my guessing. I haven't read the book in detail, but there's a long history as to like how the molds were produced. That there's like steel molds you can buy for the Polish bootlegs that shows how the figures were actually cast in like custom in the steel molds for it. And those are very, very rare, very expensive. I've seen those for sale before. And but they're all.
I was actually bidding on one last year. I don't know if you remember, or actually about 2 years ago. It was on Deal No Deal.
Right.
I was bidding on the Pruneface one actually.
I remember that.
I think I dropped out at like $2,000. I was like, yeah, I'm not going any higher.
Yeah, I bet it's probably worth double that easy. I mean, I don't know for sure, but
yeah, I think it ended up closing $4 or $5 grand, and I was like, yeah, I can't spend $5,000 on like steel mold.
You'll never.
It's a piece of collecting history.
It's the easiest figure to bootleg though is Pruneface, because the guy at the factory was just chewing on a piece of gum and decided that was the head for it, and they used a Sharpie and put a little eye patch on him.
But it's the bootlegs that make collecting Pruneface fun, because I have, I don't have a lot. I have like 5 or 6, but then I have a bunch that are ungraded that I haven't sent in yet. But it's what keeps me going with Pruneface, because there's still so many different colors I can get of him.
And that's what a lot of collectors do, is if they have a favorite character, then they'll get like every, with the Polish, for example, I've seen some collections of the Polish Boba Fett's where, I mean, it's a whole kaleidoscope of like every kind of color you can imagine. I mean, pink to blue to every, I mean, they have like 30 of them. And so that a lot of collectors do that. They just, focus on one character and try to get every color variation they can find. And, the card backs changed over the years. This is a 2nd generation card back for the Polish bootlegs, displayed with a Biker Scout. But it's interesting how the cards got smaller, and then they got even more generic for the 3rd generation figures, and those actually had like little blisters that held the figures in place. So
I had a similar question as well, and this pertains to anybody who has a focus figure of any kind. You're always looking for what else can I collect of a figure, and there's my figure Leia Bosch. There's none. I don't think there's any bootlegs for that I've ever heard of. There's a lot of figures that our listeners are interested in, but there's no bootlegs for them.
Well, Shane, I think there is actually one bootleg for you that I don't have any of these, but Model Trem, the made out of lead, and very, very expensive, very rare. But for example, Patsy Pedici, who's a friend of mine, who I bought a number of different bootlegs from over the years. I mean, he's got and I've shown Chris these before, his collection of model trims, and he's got every single model trim that is known to ever exist, all the boxes, all the weapons, everything. And he said, if you ever need a specific character, let me know. And they won't be cheap, But for someone like you, if you had a desire to get a model trim, I bet I could find you one in a week, if that. Just because Patsy, he's got every connection known to man for South America.
He put one up. I don't know that much about him, but he put one up for sale about 2 weeks ago, and it had I know that there's a version that has the helmet head.
Yeah,
he had a head swap. Leia head with the buns on it, the A New Hope head, and I don't know if that came with it or didn't or what, but he had that one up for sale, and I don't know anything about them. I just thought it was cool, and so I threw up, like an opening bid, and he immediately was like, "Oh, we got a long way to go," and I was like, "Okay, not in my playground." Yeah.
Most of the model trims, you're talking, $1,500 to $2,000 easily for one of those, and just because of the rarity, depending on condition and things. But I mean, he's the guy to go. He's the guy he runs the Model Trim Society, Facebook group. So he's very active.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about them just in relation to the bootleg conversation as a line, and for any of our listeners, I know very little, but I do know to say for our listeners who are watching, Glassly in Brazil eventually got the license for the Kenner figures, for the actual licensed Star Wars figures. Before they did, though, there was another company that was making these model trim figures, which were as closely modeled after the Kenner figures as they could make, and they were made out of lead, which is really, wild. And some of them had removable parts, removable heads, or different, maybe some accessories. But those are considered bootlegs. I mean, again, you could call them knockoffs because they were so closely modeled after the Kenner figures, but obviously they're lead and they're not plastic. They're obvious difference.
Yeah, the model trim company, it was interesting. I think from what little I know about that company, I think they did like model train type stuff, and they had like a whole nother line of like just space, sci-fi related characters like the Series 2. And but that line is very interesting because it was copied by an artist, and I'm going to mangle his name, but I think his name is Pablo Artizi or something like that. He was a South American artist who did knockoffs of the model trims. So those would be called knockoffs, right? He made fake model trims, and so that whole community kind of picked up. Or his Arteezy, knockoffs, those picked up after Model Trim, went under or stopped producing Star Wars figures. So it's like I said, and even those are collectible, but they're not worth. I mean, they're worth a fraction of what a true Model Trim's worth, and most true Trim collectors are not going to want those, but they do command some dollars on the secondary market just because of the historic aspect of it and the way they look and things like that. But so that's an example. Of a knockoff. It was a knockoff of a bootleg, believe it or not. It's actually, stuff that happens.
That sounds like it falls into the category of like Toy Tonys a little bit, and we don't
like
have
artistic customs,
customs or but those were kind of done to fool people, though, to recard. They were knockoff cards, and we don't have to go into all that. But yeah, there's a lot of history out there of the universe of collecting, of people trying to, mimic stuff, and then there's bootlegs and there's knockoffs, and it's a wild west.
Well, and the Arteezy fake model trims actually had fake boxes. I mean, he went all out. And again, I'm not an expert by any means on any of these. Patsy is, but I mean, I've seen the fake boxes and the fake trims, and I couldn't, not me personally, there's no way I could tell the difference because I don't know anything about them. But if you go on eBay right now, for example, and you type in vintage Mexican Star Wars bootleg, you'll get like 400 listings, and probably 398 of those will be all modern customs that were made in somebody's garage down in Mexico City, 2 weeks ago. So it's a very dangerous game to play, and it definitely pays to do research before you start spending money. Because I made that mistake. I freely admit that I didn't know what I was doing early on, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll buy that. Oh, it's awesome." And then I find out it's like, "This garbage. You don't want that." So I literally somebody just threw away. It's like, okay, out, get out.
I think Shane hit the nail on the head there with the difference between a knockoff and a bootleg is that the knockoff is made to fool people. The bootleg is obvious, like you said, either financial circumstances or political situation in a country, they weren't able to have those figures, so it was taking those figures and making them at a factory somewhere so that their kids could have something to play with. Those were the bootlegs. But if you're trying to fake out people, like some of the current Kenner figures, there's knockoffs that exist that have, LFL 19 whatever written on the leg. And even though it's like that, I know there's a couple of yak faces that are like that, maybe in a man-to-man or something like that. But those do exist, and that would be a knockoff because they're simply just trying to fool people on that. Same thing with the repro weapons, just trying to fool people.
Well, to collectors, vintage Star Wars collectors who don't collect bootlegs, they come into the bootleg group and say this is all, it's all the same stuff. Knockoffs or bootlegs or modern customs are artistic customs. They all think it's the same thing, and that's fine. I mean, I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. You can collect whatever you want to collect, but if you truly are interested in the bootlegs, like the vintage and the true bootleg history and things like that, there's it's a very specific part of that segment. It's not all the same, and that's where a lot of the heated discussion that I see takes place in the if you're not in the bootleg group, but if you're in like general groups, you'll see a lot of heated discussion between both factions. I stay out of it, obviously, because I don't know enough to try and even interject. But there is definitely a very vocal contingent of vintage Star Wars license collectors who view all bootlegs as garbage, and I think that's a mistake because it is a really cool piece, a cool slice of collecting history that, if you don't want to collect it, that's cool, but at least respect it. You know what I mean? Because it's a very it's a part of the history of collecting these Star Wars figures that a lot of people don't know about.
I'm curious. Do you know the history behind how these different countries got a hold of the molds? Was it something that they created, or did somebody smuggle in some figures, or smuggle in some molds, or how did that go down? Do you know?
A lot of it depends. So, for example, in Poland, and I know in Poland, for example, they did steal a lot of the Kenner molds. So for example, this Polish deluxe figure, it's one of the fully articulated bootlegs that it's part of a very small line of 4 figures that came out in about 1985 from a very specific factory in Poland, and it actually has the date stamps on the back of Yoda's back, just like the licensed figure. So in some cases they did straight up steal and reuse that mold. Then you have others from other factories in Poland where this is just a static bootleg that has the mold, that again has the license on the back of the leg from the licensed figure. It says, made in Hong Kong. This is a raised bar China Luke, but it's smaller, right? Because they took the figure and they put it in the mold, and then the mold created smaller figures than the licensed figures, right? Just because as the nature of the beast. And in Russia, they took the Power of the Force 2 Bosk, right? And it's literally, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. If you held this up next to a licensed Polish Power of the Force 2 Bosk, other than the paint scheme and the rudimentary kind of, plastics, it's the mold itself is exactly the same. And then you have others like in Mexico where, clearly it was inspired by, but probably was made, there's probably a whole separate mold that they used to create something that was very similar but not exact, So it was a mix and match. The Hungarian, this is a Hungarian Luke, and it's very similar, but a lot of them, I would say most of them probably did use some variation of the mold, a crude version of the licensed figure, and just recreated it bit by bit by probably taking one apart or something. Who knows? But you're asking the wrong guy, man. I don't know the exact history for a lot, but it's crazy though, man. Literally this week alone, the guy who wrote the Polish bootleg book, the second edition, he's friends with another guy, and the other guy just showed some factory information about the earliest Polish bootlegs from the late 70s, early 80s. It's information that's just now coming out, and it's 2022. So it's just crazy how new information comes to light in the bootleg community on so late in the collecting cycle for Star Wars. It's a fairly mature market, right, for collecting, but we're still finding out new information, which is cool.
Yeah.
Why are they making Power of the Force 2 bootlegs?
Well, in Russia, they didn't get the Star Wars movie in theaters there until like 1991, the original Star Wars movie. So they were really late to the game. And, by that time, the Cold War was over and things like that. But they, they just had these, they wanted to go with what was popular in stores at the time, right? So 91 is when they first saw Star Wars. It probably took a couple of years to heat up, around 95 is when, the Power of the Force 2 line came out, right? And, they probably started the early stages of being able to get the manufacturing set up for these Power of the Force 2 bootlegs in probably late 90s. They had a much more rudimentary first run AT-AT driver that's all silver that I got over there that came out as early as like 1991. So that was kind of their first figure right as Star Wars was hitting theaters in Russia. But as they realized it was more and more popular, they had to come out with, some other figures. And, by 91, I mean, the vintage Kenner run was kind of done, right? So they were going with what was popular in the U.S. And in the U.S., it was kind of like Power of the Force 2 in 95 to 2000 when the Russian Ortet company was getting rolling.
What you have to do is if you're not interested in, collecting bootlegs, or you don't appreciate the collection of bootlegs, or you don't give it a lot of, you don't give it a lot of thought. What you do have to appreciate is the fact that the reason why the bootlegs exist, obviously there were some companies in these countries that wanted to make money and capitalize, but the point is they saw a market, because just like we're Star Wars fans, every country that got the movie at whatever point they got the movies had a lot of Star Wars fans. And those fans were starved for some representation of the figures in the movie, the characters in the movie. So the only opportunity some of these kids could have these figures was these bootlegs. And, they don't look exactly like ours. They don't look like the movie. They're different colors. They're different material, not the same plastic. God only knows. But especially for the folks who were poorer and couldn't afford very much in these other countries, this was their way to get these figures. And however they could get them, they were happy to have them. So as collectors like ourselves, what we have to appreciate is the notion behind it. Forget about the money making behind it, but the fact that these being made put Star Wars figures of some kind into 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 10-year-olds' hands to play with, which we all wanted and we all have the great memories of. So that's why, I give it the appreciation that they exist for that reason.
Yeah, so going back to I think it was Brandon or John, I can't remember. The Ortet company. This was their first figure they ever made with this AT-AT driver. It's all silver. You can see it's got a little like ray gun. It looks like a little alien ray gun from the 1950s, right?
Yeah.
So that's their first attempt, and that came out like early 90s. And you can see how advanced they got. Within a short time frame, they went to almost an exact replica of the Power of the Force 2 figures. And a funny story about these Bosks is that, these are typically in hot pink, I believe Chris showed one just a second ago, the hot pink example. Yeah. So this one I couldn't sleep one night. I went on eBay, and this guy in Russia listed this one for like $150. I was like, I seem to remember reading on the Facebook group that the metallic green one is really hard to find. So I bought it real quick. A month later, it shows up, and all the guys in the bootleg group says, yeah, there's like 3 other known examples in the world of that. You're just, it was insanely lucky that the guy in Russia sold it for way cheap. And, it just happened. I just happened to be on when it got listed. And he said, all the longtime guys were like, I can't believe that an idiot like you was able to find that, as easily as I did. So it's just funny.
What's interesting about that is we're probably all sitting here thinking like, oh, how much is that worth? And the answer is it's worth, like, there's no answer is the answer, right? Like there's only 3 available but 3 that have ever been found. You find somebody who wants that, you could almost name your price.
Yeah, I got an email. I think I showed it to Chris. Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, but I got an email about a week ago, I guess, from a guy who actually was on my channel, and he happened to see that episode where I talked about those bootlegs and how rare they are. And he made an offer of $5,000 a piece for that one, and for the orange one. The orange one this is one of 4 known to exist, if memory serves. The metallic orange, very, very difficult to find too. I also got from a guy in Russia. But anyway, yeah, a guy emailed me and said, I'll give you $5,000 each for those, because I've been looking for those forever. So
yeah, you told me that this week, and it probably took me 5 minutes just to believe you because you're usually always like messing around with me.
No, that was a real email I got from a collector who's. I mean, he saw the channel and saw the video and made an offer. But
and what did I tell you to do? I told you to sell it immediately.
Yeah, I'm not. No, I mean, if I needed the money, I would. But I don't. I mean, they're so rare and so hard to find that. You know.
For me, John, those are absolutely worthless.
It's okay. Yeah, like I said, it's only for certain collectors. You know, a lot of people don't like them, and that's okay. I mean, we all collect different.
You bought those from a guy off on eBay that lives in Russia.
One guy, yeah, the green he listed it on eBay for $150, and I don't think he knew what he had. You know, so I bought it immediately, and I thought it was a joke. You know, or maybe it was just incorrect or something, or wrong photos. You know.
You're the only guy that I know that would buy anything from somebody in Russia on eBay.
Yeah, so the one that Chris is showing right now.
This is the one that you can get like right now on eBay. It's pretty much all over. This is like the common one. How much does it cost, John? Like $20?
$20. Yeah, $25. Yeah, somewhere. Yeah, so that's the final color that they settled on. If I had to guess, we're all guessing. I've spoken with a couple of guys who used to know the owner of the Ortet company before he passed away, and he said that he thinks that probably what happened was this was the first iteration, this Bosk, and the metallic green, and they didn't think it was exciting enough. You know, it wasn't very bright and colorful, so they probably tried this one next. This is kind of like another test shot. If I had to guess, I'm just guessing. This is, a metallic orange color. It's got kind of a metallic purplish orange sheen to it. And so they probably like that. And then they decided on the pink just because they wanted something bright and that would attract kids' eyes, on shelves. And so my guess is that these were like test shots, to test out different colors that somehow made it, into collectors' hands. And there's also a metallic gold one that I know a subscriber on my channel in Russia. She reached out and said, I've got the metallic gold one that I've seen in photo. I've only seen a photo of it, but I didn't think it was real, but she actually did reach out and said, yeah, it is real. I've got it. So my guess is that they probably tried different colors and they settled on the hot pink as the final.
And that pearlescent peach one is known as the Golden Girls Bosk. Is that right?
Is this? I call it the oil slick Bosk because it's got it's weird. It's got like a purplish kind of sheen to it that's just really mesmerizing if you happen to be next to it. And I don't know, it's hard to explain unless you have it in your hand. It's really bizarre, but it's only one of like four.
Well, the funny thing is we're here to surprise you tonight and reveal something. You think they're one of three and one of four. Brandon has a drawer with 6 of each of those in it, and he's going to reveal those now.
They're worth a lot of money.
We don't know. We're just theorizing because Brandon has never opened his drawers. None of the four of us, the rest of the other 4 of us, have any idea what he has in his collection. He doesn't sell anything. He just keeps adding and packing those drawers full.
It sounds like somebody else on this episode.
We have no clue, though. We've never seen one thing you have. Like, we have never seen anything. There's no display behind you. You never hold anything up.
Chris,
I love it, Brandon.
Chris saw a picture one time. I sent it to him by accident.
He did. I actually asked him. And he sent me a PM. What happened?
How come you and Brandon have these like rare photos? Like, we have the photos of old heads in the factory. No one else seen them. You won't send them to anyone else. And now you have a photo of his supposed collection that he has.
Well, because I was working nights and Brandon was the only person who was still awake at that time because he's 3 hours behind. So when it's 3 a.m. here, it's 12 a.m., or 12 a.m. there. So we would always talk a lot. And he definitely did by accident send me pictures of his collection because he even said afterwards, he goes, "Oh, I shouldn't have sent that."
So did you save them?
Of course, I still have it.
So send them out.
No, that's what's going to happen. Those are going to be revealed when we have 2,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
that's the way to do it.
That's going to be the giveaway for 2,000.
Well, if there's one thing to talk about with bootlegs, it would be that for everyone who wants to start collecting and whatever, Prune Face is available. There are many bootlegs, so that's more of a reason to start collecting now.
Start collecting prune face.
Start collecting prune face. Yes.
You're grasping for reasons to talk people into prune face.
Mark had already dumped on prune face. You missed your calling. You could have been a millionaire living in Florida, sitting on a beach somewhere, but you didn't want to sell when the prices were $100 for a prune face.
That was a window of about 2 days.
Yeah. It was only like a few weeks. Now he's back to like $40 bucks, 45 maybe.
That bag that he has with the 10 prune faces in it at one point was worth $3,500. And
how many were in that bag?
It's so I'm still not convinced that it's actually fake because I've showed it off to a few baggie collectors, and they have all actually told me that it's actually real. And I know that CAS has turned down baggies before, and they have been real, and they screwed up actually on their end. So I still haven't opened it. I still have it sealed, and I think that one day I am going to send it back in with more information to get it graded.
Oh yeah, you absolutely have to keep that. I mean, you can't don't ever open that. I mean, just there's no reason to, just in case, you know.
Where'd you buy it from?
Oh, go ahead.
I bought it on eBay. I sent it out to a couple of baggie guys that I know. They all said that it was real, that, KB has been known to do those like custom 10 packs, maybe not with prune face, but they've done it before with other figures. So I bought it saying to myself, even if it's fake, it's still 10 prune faces in a bag. They're worth 30 bucks, at the time. I think I spent $250 on it. So I still made my money technically. But CAS had it for like 7 months, and then they told me that they won't grade it because it's fake. But I still don't think it's fake.
So you bought it on eBay?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I think I sent him that link. I found it. Right? I was like, I got to send this to Chris right away. It was so weird.
I don't remember who sent it to me. It might have been you, but yeah. I bought stuff from that guy before. Like, he sells a lot of stuff, and it's always real. That's why, another reason why I think that they might have screwed up, because a lot of the stuff he sells is authentic. But who knows?
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question for John. What do you think of what would the Letty Frankenstein figures be considered, do you think?
Well, if you were good friends, if you were actually a good friend of mine, you'd actually know that I have a full video on the Frankenstein figures on my channel. But anyway, since you haven't seen that video, no, the Frankensteins, the Frankensteins are actually pretty. I'm just joking, John. The Frankenstein figures are actually what's called Lily Letty hybrids, and there are a number of different hybrid Lettys where they took overstock as the Letty factory was going out of business, and they either combined them with mismatched characters, and I've got a number of them that have been graded by CAS that they'll grade those, or they are matched with bootleg parts, and I've got a couple of those as well, where especially the Emperor's Royal Guard, those are known to have like bootleg capes or bootleg legs or bootleg arms, things like that. So that's actually a very legitimate collectible to have any of those hybrid Lily Lettys.
Okay, yeah, I was curious where it fell in, what category it fell into as far as, I guess so. It is considered like a bootleg.
Well, it depends. If it has all licensed figure parts,
okay,
it's really like an overstock mishmash of figures. If it's sonically welded versus glued, if it's hand glued together, it was probably done after the fact by the black marketers down in Mexico after the Letty factory went out of business. But the Letty factory was known to like mismatch figures and just slap sonic welding on them and get them out the door as it was going out of business. So it just depends on what you got. But yeah, I mean, if it's got a true sonic weld and is not just glued together after the fact, then I would call that more of a licensed figure, overstock kind of figure.
Well, there's actually a video of all the old women that worked at the factory that when it closed, they stuffed everything in their pockets and they put them together at home and sold them on the side.
Yep.
There's actually a video of that, Charles.
So you could have a sleeping wing, there's a smiling bee wing, There's a frowning B-wing. There's a sad B-wing, a laughing B-wing. There's all sorts of B-wings out there.
16 different variations of the B-wing facial expressions.
What about the O-face? Did you find the O-face one?
There is no O-face because they were committed to a life of celibacy as a pilot for the rebellion.
Their face number 12. I think it's 12, John. Correct me if I'm wrong. Face number 12 is I just ate some bad shellfish.
Yeah, I believe that is 12.
Yeah.
I believe that is 12. Yeah. I do have one more. I mean, not to. I do have this that I picked up in a collection, and I talked to you about this off air earlier. What can you tell us about the 90s? You said this is an early 90s Mexican bootleg, and I know that this is. I guess this is like a Blue Stars knockoff, maybe, because it looks like a Snow Trooper.
So the Snow Troopers of the 90s were they did a bunch of different colors. I've got an orange one. You've got the blue one. I mean, there's red. There are all kinds of different colors. The multicolored, the bright colored Hoth Stormtroopers, they date back to the 1980s. But the ones that have like the little lips, I'm not sure if that one has the lips or not. But usually those are the 1990s. It does.
The silver lips, I think.
Yeah. So those are the 1990s. The ones without any kind of lips are most likely the early vintage 80s ones that are very, very expensive, very rare.
Charles, do you have any figures with lips?
I do not have any figures with lips. I leave those all for John because he loves all the facial expressions.
Right.
That's true. But I do want to talk back about this real quick too. Like here's the A-wing, I guess. I think it's a B-wing. Looks like a B-wing helmet in there, and there's two on.
They call it the B-wing. Yeah, they made red and green in the 1990s for that. Yeah, I've got a green one.
And then there's two on B, and then there's Yoda accessories in here.
Yeah, so
the snake, the cane, and the belt.
Yeah, and a lot of those Yoda accessories, and often it's hard to tell. I can't tell the difference out of the bag whether they're 80s or 90s. So it very well could be a 90s 80s Yoda accessories that you got there. I can not tell the difference at all. But the other big one that you'll see is like a sprue with a vibro axe and a palace blaster and a biker scout blaster pistol, all on a factory sprue. Those will be the other kind of weapons that you'll see packed in those baggies in the 1990s, usually like in bright pink or white.
Yeah, and
John, that looks like it's in really nice condition. Do you keep that directly in your toilet? Like, where do you display that?
This actually, it came with a collection that I bought, and I'm kind of like an accidental bootlegger. But no, that's the way it came. It traveled across the border, so that's all the dust on there. And they probably did have to smuggle it in a porta potty, otherwise known as a 5-gallon bucket of pee and poo, to get it into the States.
Okay, that about wraps up our show.
All right, guys. Any other bootleg questions? Anything else for Rula before we let him hit the hay and get his beauty rest?
I am good looking, yes, but I am tired too. So
yeah, he's
tired.
He's got 5 more videos he's going to shoot tomorrow that he's got to prepare for.
That's right. My mind right.
John has a very busy day of doing thumbnails and videos tomorrow.
It's taxes, man. Tax season.
Oh, it's tax. It is tax season. Yeah.
Well, you can always reach out to me anytime with questions. I'm certainly not the expert. I get lots of questions by PMs on Instagram at Action Figure Grader, and if I don't know the answer, then I know somebody who does. And I usually don't know the answer, if I'm being honest with you.
John, do you have a YouTube channel? Where can people find you?
Yeah, it's called the Action Figure Grader, and I try to put out a video every day. Probably going to slow down once we get into the busy real estate season. But for the time being, it's been fun to kind of keep everybody abreast of prices, mainly on vintage Kenner. But I actually do have some graded bootlegs that sold on eBay this week that will be in tomorrow's video. So,
nice.
Yeah. Well, Shane will
All
be
right,
sure not to
well,
watch it because he doesn't even watch ours.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I'll check it out and see if I can locate you. But
You're not missing
of course
You're not missing anything.
Of course, I've seen it. I'll watch your channel over our channel. I already know what happens on our channel. It's garbage.
Hey, what was the last
amazed.
repro roundup, Shane? Which one? What was the last repro roundup? The latest one. Okay.
Palace Blaster, maybe.
Nope, he's never done that yet.
Palace
done it.
Blaster. Shane, what planet are you on?
I watched it. I can't remember now.
Watch it for the music. The music is awesome.
Yeah, he's got great music on there. I told him that.
And it's unlicensable, so
Yeah, he can't even. He's not even supposed to be using that music. It's copyrighted.
I've had that happen to me too. Where I've had a few copyright infringements.
Well, but I mean, it's just that I can't. Well, since we're not making any money anyway right now, I can't make any money on it. That's the only thing.
Yeah, so when we start making money, we have to cut John out for a portion of it because he's not even monetizing his video.
So far, they've only had like 70 views or whatever. It's ridiculous.
Well, I wish more novice collectors would find them and get on them and learn from them, because there's stuff that the five of us know just from our education and our collecting, but they're really super helpful for the novice collectors to figure out what are real accessories and what are not, and to show you how to know the difference. So definitely check it out on our channel, Repro Roundup. John does a new episode every week. We've got a lot of other content on there. So anybody else who's watching on, or let's just say listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any of your favorite podcast apps, you can come over to YouTube and get more than just our regular weekly episode. We put those on the podcast apps, but there's a lot of other video content, and you can also watch our weekly episode in video form on our YouTube channel. So come on over to YouTube, subscribe there, hit the bell icon, get notified of new content, which is multiple times a week. And let's say thank you so much to John Rula. Thank you for joining us, taking your Sunday night to educate us on bootlegs. I know you said a million times that you're not the expert, but certainly you shared a lot of knowledge with the rest of us and all of our listeners. So we certainly appreciate it.
I had so much fun as always, guys. I need to get all of you on my channel at some point for a live stream. I love doing the live streams too. So we'll get you guys on at some point, and it'd be nice to have.
Well,
it'd be nice to have more than just Chris. Okay, I'm a little bit tired of seeing him. Maybe some of the other parties involved on this channel would be good.
Well, the benefit of having any of us on your show, the five of us, we have dozens and dozens of followers and viewers that we can bring over to your channel. So.
All of your fan. I told Chris, all of your fan will love our episode.
Well, he's like fan, and then he goes singular. He's like spelling it out like, I got it, John.
Well, John, we will all be in Nashville at the end of April, so come on down to the convention center and we'll do it.
I'd love to meet up. I'd love to meet up for dinner or something. It'd be fun. Maybe at some point soon. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Love it. After, maybe during breaks when you guys are at the convention afterwards or beforehand, it'd be nice to meet up.
Definitely.
All right, very good. Thanks again for joining us, guys. Another fun episode. I think this might be a two-parter, so I'm saying goodbye at part 2 here. But again, follow John Rula at Action Figure Grader on YouTube. He's got merchandise. He's got cups and underwear and ladies' garments.
Very good looking. Also very good looking and brave.
Right. He's the best looking graded figure collector that I know. He's posing for the camera. All right, guys. Oh, John, you got to say something. We're missing this.
Yeah, he's flipping his hair back and forth.
I'm just being an idiot.
We fit right in.
All right, thanks for having me on, guys. We'll see y'all soon.
Very good. Right. Thanks very much, everyone. Appreciate you watching. Follow us on Facebook at 5idiotstalkingtoys.com. That'll get you to our Facebook page. And also collect with us. And John Rula is in our group as well. What's it called? Rogue 5 Toys. All right. So come and join us there. John is posting his content there regularly, so you can easily find all of his videos. You can find our videos there, and then also collect with us. There's stuff for sale every day, all day long. Charles and Christopher, they barely even work. All they do is post Star Wars on this group. So please join us there. All right, everyone. Have a good night.